Reilly is with us tonight. She's going to be our speaker. So Reilly started caving in 2016. She started caving just 4 years ago with VPI Cave Club in Blacksburg, Virginia. And in 2018, she was an intern for the National Speleological Society. While living in Alabama, she reluctantly accepted the role of Lee White's primary gear Sherpa. Aww. And focused on bottom-up vertical exploration all over TAG. In 2018, Reilly caved in Montana's Bob Marshall Wilderness and hauled tanks at Main Drain in Utah. Shortly after, she participated in the U.S. Deep Caving Team expedition to Sistema Huautla and Sistema Huautla. These days, pre-quarantine, she helped the VA DCR with cave bioinventory and likes to find awful virgin passage in Germany Valley, West Virginia, Skydusky Hollow, Virginia, and wherever else mud and ropes occur in the same place, that's where she would like to be. So Reilly, take it away. Welcome.
Hello. Hopefully my internet holds up. I think I've told some of you I'm kind of out in the middle of the woods, but it seems to be working okay so far. So I'm gonna share my screen, I think. We're ready for that. Can you guys see that? I guess I can't hear you if so. Whoop.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about this cave that I helped find during PESH 2019 last year. So I went to PESH in April at the beginning after spending about 3.5 weeks at Cheve with Amy Hill and people. So the word Elysium is kind of like a bastardization of the word Elysian, as in the Elysian fields from Greek mythology. My internet's a little funky. And it means like just like a very nice place to be. So it's in Huautla, in Oaxaca, in southern Mexico, where there are also a large number of other deep, interesting caves of great historic significance. Here you can see, here's Cueva Cheve down here near the bottom of the screen, and which is the kind of the major original part of Sistema Huautla. And then you can see the point for Elysium is up north above San Agustin, La Grieta, and the bulk of Sistema Huautla. And it's in this very small town called Plan de Escoba. And Bill Steele and Alma and Tommy arranged access to Plan de Escoba for the first time as part of PESH this year. So I actually did not get to go into La Grieta or any of the more classic Sistema Huautla entrances at all, because we immediately got to go up to this new area, which was very exciting. So here's a little bit about PESH. It's the Sistema Huautla is the deepest cave in the Western Hemisphere. It's 1,560 meters deep, 9th deepest cave in the world. It's 89 kilometers long, and as of this year, it has 29 entrances, which I believe is more than Mammoth, which I think Bill is very proud of, so that's pretty cool. That's a picture of Vico and his chicken, Pesha, or Pesho, depending on your preference and your opinions about gender. And they are the backbone of the expedition, for sure. Here's the group picture, I think from the middle. You can see over there to the left, there's a lot of other people, probably lots of you know, Vico and Blake and Fernando and Bill and Audrey and Sonia who's here. So this is Plan de Escoba. There's me and there's Tristan Stahl carrying lots of stuff. The mountains here are super spectacular. I really love caving in this part of Mexico just because the topography is so dramatic. This pink house is the house that we stayed in. So there's Tristan, and this is So we were hosted by the family of the representante, Genaro, and he had this spare house that he let us stay in with a room for bathing in and some room for sleeping in. I slept outside in the tent out front. And then he had a lot of kids, but he had 3 kids there that we got to know pretty well, and we ate dinners with the family, which was a very cool experience for me. It didn't really make my Spanish any better, and my Mazatec remains non-existent, but it was a pretty awesome cultural experience to do that exchange with them. This is the view from the tent. It's very beautiful. This is one of Genaro's family's fields. This is their house, and then the house with the turquoise door there is a building where there was a group of Mexican cavers and some Australian and some Spanish cavers staying there during the first 2 weeks that we were in Planta Escoba as well. So there's actually a separate expedition happening to a very close area. This is the inside of our house. I'm teaching Tristan and Georgia to read Asunto in this picture. Georgia's doing a great job, and you can see all our expedition gear gathered around. This is a pretty sweet beetle that we found. I don't know what it is, but I thought it was awesome. Here's a picture of me and Genaro and his uncle. They were really excited to take a lot of pictures of me, I think mostly because of my hair, which was weird looking. So the first day we did some ridge walking, and the word ridge walking is in quotes. I'm pretty sure everyone's meeting knows what ridge walking is, but it's where you go and look for new caves. And a lot of the time it involves like walking a long way and finding some things that might be caves or cave leads or cave digs. And in this case, we walked for a couple of hours and found like 10 caves right away, including several that turned out to be large. So here's one of the big sinkholes. This is the sinkhole that the cave is in. And when we came into this sinkhole, I actually felt a large quantity of cold air kind of rolling down the side of it. So I climbed up the side a little bit, following the air, and found this entrance. And here's me making a goofy face in the entrance. There's a lot of vines right there, so it's like a very kind of classic looking jungle cave entrance. You can see behind me this really big flat head wall. So this is actually why the cave is named Elysium. There's a famous cave in Alabama called Valhalla, and Valhalla is the heaven of Norse mythology. And so because it looked kind of like Valhalla, I named it after the heaven in Greek mythology before we knew if the cave, went or anything. Here's what it looks like looking out the entrance. It's pretty. There's like nice sunbeams and stuff. Here's a Tiffany Nardico photo of Elliot Stahl rigging the high side. We later switched. Originally, we thought that the low side would be a boulder slope of death, so we rigged the high side. Then we thought it was stupid to rig the high side, so we rigged the low side, and then the low side did turn out to be a collapsing boulder slope of death. So you guys should go with your first instincts if you ever get that impression. There's me in a big pack. This is a cool Tiffany picture of the very first survey shots in the entrance. Tiffany did a lot of really great photography work in this cave. So we joked when I named it Elysium that if we found anything really good, we could name it Isle of the Blessed, along with the theme. In mythology, the Isle of the Blessed is where you get to go if you're super extra good instead of like a little bit good. And so we found this very big room. Elliot and I found it, and he joked immediately that we had connected to Cheve. So if you've been to Cheve, that means it's like very large, booming space, surprisingly so. This is actually the small side of the room. And then as we surveyed through the borehole, we found some very decorated rooms. This is called Anthodite Hollow, which is a reference to the famous Anthodite Hall in Sistema Huautla. This is another view of another part of Anthodite Hollow. That's Tristan and Georgia. Really pretty Tiffany photo there. Lots and lots and lots of white anthodites, and the floor is gray calcite. And then there's some cool bats, especially I like this one on the upper right that's encased in the gray calcite, but lots of bat skeletons everywhere. So when we found all these things in Anthodite Hollow and the calcite, Elliot did a climb over a pit, and we had run out of rope, so we had to go back to the base camp and get more rope. And we left this pit, which was blowing really strong air, and headed south. And we generally wanted to be headed south towards the main part of Sistema Huautla. So that word Aeolus is, I believe, the Greek god of the south wind. And it turned out to be a really pretty pit, lots of flowstone. This is like the only actual pit in the cave for a long time. Mostly this cave is just like a borehole kind of on a, like a dip angle like that. Here's a really nice picture of Audrey Steele next to some cool formations. There's a part of the cave called Despair, Hangover, and Ecstasy, which is after a song. We named a bunch of things after songs. And this is because we got to the end of this large borehole and it was totally plugged in formations with calcite. I crawled into this horrible squeeze that was very like Virginia-esque that no one could follow me through, and we couldn't make it go. And we got out of the cave and we told Mark Minton that the cave was done and it wasn't going to happen anymore. And he said, that's unacceptable. You're going to need to go back and do a better job. So we came back and, you know, we'd been having some festivities in the main part of the expedition. So we were a little bit hungover. And at the end of that trip, I squeezed into this channel in the floor, which was blowing some air, not very much. And it immediately went to this passage that you can see on the right, which is smaller passage for the cave, but still quite sizable. And passage that size, ripping really strong air. I don't know how fast, but palpable. So while going through that, this is the only tight spot of everything that I did in the month of PESH. This is Tristan Stahl trying to push 600 feet of rope through this crack. There's a large bag. Tristan made the unfortunate mistake of going on an expedition with his older brother, so he got to carry a lot of large, inconvenient things. So that's the tight spot, and after that it opens up into this room, which is, unfortunately I did not memorize the Euro trash numbers, but it's about an acre big. It's quite large. And this is the first time that we encountered any water in the cave. This is, I think, at around the 200-meter depth. So we put the camp in here. You can see kind of in the middle of the photo, that's me way off in the distance, and then everybody posing like superheroes in the front. And Fernando's lighting it up from the side. It has this really cool red ceiling, and a lot of the rock in this room actually has slick insides on it. So some people think that there's like a large fault here, and some of the rock is actually being metamorphosed, which is pretty wild. But it's a very large, beautiful room, and this is where the water is. This is my my sketch, which was intensely hubristic because I thought that I would be able to fit it on the page, and in fact could not fit basically like a third of it on the page, so it's split over 2 pages. I had a really great time sketching this room with no distos and making my friends do splay shots with Cintos on tape because I couldn't see the walls very well. This is a picture of the camp. So here's Roland Moore, Audrey, Gerardo, Tristan and Georgia, Fernando, Elliot, and me. This is a really fantastic picture that a lot of you have probably seen by now because I think it was on in the NSS News, but Fernando's dumping what the technical term is, I believe, a shit ton of fluorescein into the camp water source. The camp water source doesn't move very fast, so we were in the cave after this and the water was green the whole time, which was a new thing for me. But yeah, he's doing the trace here. We were super lucky to have his expertise and his equipment to do that trace. So from this big room, there are 2 parallel routes that take off. They're each about 150 meters deep. One of them's way tighter than the other. We surveyed and rigged them simultaneously, so we actually got to the bottom and immediately heard the drill sounds of the people coming down the other one, and then landed in some more horizontal borehole, including some more big rooms with red rock and slicken lines and many things that I don't understand, but generally large passage. Where these vertical routes start, it kind of goes up dip for a second, and then the beds in this pit, this is a Roland Moore sketch, actually seem to turn vertical, and we get a nice big pit series. But we had been hoping for the whole time while we were hiking over kilometers of breakdown. This is the lower section where everything starts to get really crunchy and confusing. There are some more crawls. Here's Gerardo I believe in this picture, he's getting ready to set the first bolt of what was supposed to be an aid climb. But he has a way of turning things that are supposed to be aid climbs into scary free climbs. He really terrified Tristan on this one, so we appreciated him for that. And then over the course of this last camp trip, Elliot climbed up about 25 meters in a really slippery flowstone thing and broke into this borehole covered in, I believe this is aragonite. I had never seen anything quite like it before. It's very sharp. And it was all floor. The whole passage is covered in this. We did not get high quality pictures of the vast majority of this passage because there was so much of it to photograph. I took these with my cell phone up close, but this stuff litters the entire floor. And I had my gloves off a lot to sketch, and I got like little needles of it in my hands. So it's basically, I think, like hiking in the desert, except cooler. Here's some more of that with some moon milk, I think, kind of like clustered on the spiky bits. And then there's a part of this called Reverie Alley that has really wild anthodites all over the walls. For large chunks of the walls. Some are yellow, so some people think that they may have sulfur in them. A friend of ours at Penn State is supposed to be doing some analysis on a sample which we collected to see if it has sulfur in it, which could be pretty significant, but we don't know yet. There's just a lot of yellow stuff in the formations. Here's a really goofy picture of me that I didn't know was going to get plastered everywhere, but it did. I don't have shoes on because the floor is very clean. This floor actually sparkles with a lot of like Technicolor sparkles, which I had never seen before and was very, very cool to observe. Here's a hero shot for Gerardo with one of the anthodite bushes in that area. I really like this picture. This is a Matt Tomlinson photo. This is more of that same passage. This is my favorite formation in the cave, which is this weird, like 3-foot diameter column of anthodite bushes that I'm looking at. And you can see the color variety in the bushes there. Here are some of the unusual formations. There's some gypsum beards, some big gypsum needles, another view of one of those really anthodite heavy rooms. And then this lower left photo is what I believe to be calcite replacement of the husk of a millipede, which I had not seen before. And we found a lot of those on the ground and had no idea what they were initially, but they seem to be millipedes, so that was pretty neat. There's also this guy, which is somewhere in the cave. I think this is a really badass Matt Tomlinson photo. There's a paleontologist who's part of PESH who may be doing some more studying of this skull at some point. And then after all that, I think we did a whole bunch of trips. We mapped, after we finished that last camp trip, I was on the last trip out. I got to take my wet boots off, which was pretty exciting. That left picture is Kyle Lassiter, who spent many hours dutifully typing all the data and the LRUDs into the computer so that we could have some idea of what was going on in the cave. So he gets a real big shout out for that. So here are some stats. I believe we surveyed 5.2 kilometers, in the vicinity of 5 kilometers. It's 412 meters deep. There are a lot of leads going pretty much everywhere in all directions. There are, as far as I know, no remaining obvious walking borehole leads, but there are a lot of leads of various sorts at various levels of the cave. And the really cool thing, which we found out around the time of NSS convention this summer, is that Fernando, after depositing all the fluorescein and doing kind of a heroic trip through La Grieta to collect charcoal packets from all these different places all over the cave, did get a positive dye trace from the camp water source in Elysium to Lower La Grieta, which I believe is about 700 meters below the current lowest point of the cave. It's either the current lowest point or the entrance, but I believe it's the current lowest point. So there's Bill and Tommy can tell me the exact numbers on this because I've forgotten. But basically there's a long way to go down before the water comes out into La Grieta. And it does mean that I retroactively did get to go to Sistema Huautla, even though I didn't know it at the time. So I was pretty happy about that. Afterwards, we're packing up all the stuff onto the pros. These are the kids the younger boy's name is Mikelanki, and I can't remember the older boy's name. We spent actually quite a bit of time with them. The younger boy especially was really scared of all of us except for Nando, but he helped us pack up at the end, and we had a really great time playing around with them. Here are some pictures of the parties afterwards. Matt Tomlinson, after getting out of Elysium, decided to go on a 3-day bender. So I have a lot of really great pictures of him sleeping in like 6 different places. So there's one of those, very important part of the PESH experience. And then the big party afterwards where everybody's wearing their mushroom shirts. This is a really beautiful piece of art in downtown Huautla, which I wanted to include, done by a local artist of a Chris Higgins photo, I think from Carrizo. That was unveiled this year. And Bill and Alma and Tommy do a lot of work to basically to collaborate with townspeople and to make it so that we have great relations with the people of Huautla. And I think this is a really beautiful example of the collaboration they do. Here's a picture of pretty much the people who spent the most time in the cave. That's Roland Moore, Tristan Stahl, Mark Mitten, Elliot Stahl, Georgia Schneider, Vani Drams, me, and Tiffany Nardico in front of our very precious pink house, wearing our PESH shirts. And the photo credits here are from Matt. Especially Matt took a lot of really, really gorgeous photos, and Tiffany, and then Georgia and Elliot and I kind of did our best with point and shoots and cell phones as we went. But I want to thank those people for letting me use their pictures, because there's a lot of pretty stuff to see in there. I think that's it. I can answer any questions.
So if no one else is going to go, I have a quick one. I know next to nothing about geology, so can you explain why it would be significant if you found sulfur in those formations?
So I don't really know anything about geology either, but Ben Schwartz, who probably knows some stuff about geology, suggested that if it was in fact sulfur that we found in Elysium, and actually the notable sulfur deposit, there's not a picture of in this slideshow, but it was found next to a bunch of gypsum, which is apparently where sulfur is often found, and it's super yellow, Kara knows stuff, and he said that likely that would mean that at least part of the cave or all of it is hypogene, which would be a big deal for Mexico. Please, someone else talk more about that.
Pretty much, that's, yeah, what I would say. Like, for instance, Lech and other New Mexico caves like Carlsbad, those are hypogene sulfur caves. So it's just a different type of formation versus like phreatic. Or phreatic or
Epigene.
Yeah, the words that like I use every day are
Phreatic.
Anyways, so yeah, that's kind of why it'd be significant, is it's a different formation style. So that's cool though. I didn't know you guys had found any sulfur. Sounds like you did a bunch of really sweet stuff in the cave. Nice sketches too.
Thank you. I was super overwhelmed by the sketching of this cave. There weren't really very many people up at Plan de Escoba who wanted to sketch, and I was actually hoping to rig a little bit more, so I did my very best, and whoever draws the map is going to have to deal with it, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know the feeling. You're like, oh, what do I want to do today? Cool. Does anybody else have any questions? Hello, Mary. Ask Reilly a question. How does she keep her hair so blonde that the kids love it so much?
So beautiful. How do you do it?
Hello, lady. Nice to see you.
It's just a little thing to add about the sulfur. Just the only thing that I've seen in Lechigua that's that yellow is the pure elemental sulfur in big lumps. But there are some other formations that are green and some other yellows that everyone thought was going to be sulfur, and it turned out to be something different. Not what it was.
Tolumenite, maybe. There's a tolumenite, and then there's another. Yeah, there's another mineral that starts with a V.
If anyone's really curious about the sulfur or knows a lot about hypogene caves, I would love to send you some pictures of the various yellow stuff that we took pictures of. I'm very much like an amateur geology enthusiast, so I don't really know, and I would be really fascinated to hear what other people think of it, especially since we haven't been able to get that testing done. So yeah, please let me know.
I know that there are people in the community that have labs and have access to labs. So if you continue to have problems, like definitely reach out and yeah, maybe we can find a lab for you guys to get your samples analyzed at, you know, depending on COVID
Cool,
stuff.
thank you.
But yeah.
I would like to see those pictures of the yellow. I've seen a number of weird yellows, including sulfur, metatamonite, even got stuffed my face in some uranium one time. I didn't realize it until afterwards, but that's what it was.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
So I'm seeing several different weird yellows in caves is all I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. I will post, maybe you can, I'm in the Facebook group, so you can message me, so I have people's contact info. And yeah, Tommy, if you can share a map, that would be great. I tried to hunt for your line plot, but I couldn't track it down today when I was updating the presentation.
Oh, Tommy says that he'll bring up a map of the cave on the screen. Sure, do it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Hey, I don't
Any
have,
other questions? Well, Tommy's
but I just
doing
wanted
the
to
map.
say hi and good presentation. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Sonia.
So my question is, who is the mythology expert? Was that you, Reilly?
I wouldn't say that I am an expert, but I did do a great job of coming up with overly fanciful names. Yes, that was mostly me.
So you know you're in Mexico? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, a
We
lot of things
always,
are named after songs too, because that was just the way the things were at that time, I guess.
I love, yeah, trying to translate, like getting home from expedition at the end of the night and trying to translate your cave names and passages into Spanish. Peter especially, and we'll force you to do that. You're like, it doesn't make sense in Spanish, Peter. But he won't.
Yeah, we're just making Fernando do all of it, and he's decided that he's just replacing them with equally fanciful names of his own design, which I'm totally fine with. We decided that's a good solution.
Yeah. Oh, good. Hey, Oscar, what's up?
Hi, Oscar.
Hey there, not much.
Have you been climbing in your trees? Have you been forcing your daughter to climb in your trees?
Every Tuesday and Thursday, we have a game where it's like a tag game. So we have like a circuit where we just have to, you know, give a few minutes before one can reach the other. So she's been entertained while she's isolated. But, you know.
Good. Yeah, teenage girls like, I'm tired of playing with you, Dad. Go away.
She's getting good though. She's getting good.
Yeah, blindfolded. I mean, come on.
Yeah, the next thing is teaching her pickups. How to rescue people.
Oh. You're going to make her practice regularly. Oh, look, we have a map coming.
Woohoo.
But he can't talk, so somebody else is going to have to narrate. Right?
Oh.
Oh, Reilly will do it.
Okay, I actually haven't seen this. So this
Exciting.
is good to know.
Narrate the first.
Yeah. Yeah, I think initially we called it Elysium Pit, but it's not really Elysium Pit. There's the breakdown, confirmed. Cool, so this is Camp Bertha where the water is. That is that thing that says climb lead goes a long way and has a bunch of stuff in it. And then the GTR is one of the pit series is going down, I believe. I don't know what that other big room is. So yeah, as far as I know from seeing the line plot previously, I think I mentioned this, the deepest point of the cave is actually directly under the entrance. It headed pleasingly south for a while and then took a U-turn and went straight. So in terms of finding a route that goes in Sistema Huautla, there's a long way to go horizontally as well as vertically still.
Hey, I have a question.
I'm not sure what questions are. Yeah.
So, oh, so the giant borehole, what level, how deep is that? You know, like
so there
200
is
to
one
400
giant.
meters, or like,
So there's one giant borehole that I think goes down to about 100 meters and ends in Anthodite Hollow. Oh, hold on a second.
okay,
My internet is messing up. Can you guys hear me?
yeah.
Okay. So I think the first big borehole goes down to maybe like 100 meters. And that's where the Isle of the Blessed is, and that ends in Anthodite Hollow. And then it drops down the pit, which is like 20 meters. And then there's another really big borehole. And this one is super weird and old. It has like 40-foot deep brimstone dams in it and a lot of black anthodites and other weird stuff that I can't explain. That one ends in a big formation plug, and then you drop through the crack in the floor, the rickshaw crack, and then there's another big borehole that ends in the big room where the camp is. And that, I believe, is about 200 meters. Because the total depth of the cave is around 400, and the vertical pit series are about 140 meters.
The pictures
So
really
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the pictures really remind me of Camp 3 in La Grieta, and it's that giant broken borehole thing that's all tilty. What do you think, Sonia? Did you see it? I saw you look. She's like, La Grieta? What? Who said that?
Yeah, so there's also some very large borehole very close to the bottom. That
it just feels like it's a level.
The
or
rock's
something.
very like tortured, and tilted, and weird, and that's about 400 meters down. But I mean, the vast majority of the cave is quite large. So there's large borehole at pretty much all of the levels. And I've never been into La Grieta, so I couldn't compare. But somebody like Fernando could, or Matt Tomlinson could tell you.
Well, Sonia and I were at Camp 3 together.
Yeah, but like Fernando and Matt.
So you've been at both places. Right.
This is bigger than a lot bigger than La Grieta from what it sounds.
But even Camp 3.
Yeah, towards the Camp 3 area, and then what we discovered last year also starts to get pretty big.
That's what I wonder if that's not a level, but it's higher. It's got less depth there, right? Like Camp 3 is only at like 200 meters, right? Is that correct?
Camp 3 is pretty close to the surface actually, because once you go down 400 meters, you have to go up all the way.
Right. It's like I think what 200 meters deep or something. Or, I don't know. I forget.
The entrance of Elysium, I believe, is at a significantly higher elevation than the entrance of La Grieta, though. So it's quite a ways above, but I don't necessarily understand all of that.
How?
Yeah. So there you go.
Well, so there's that question.
Oh, this is awesome, Tommy. This is so cool to see.
So what's how long did it take you guys to survey all of this passage?
I could tell you exactly the number of trips I did. There were basically like 8 of us up there at any given time, and we were working in it for the whole expedition, but we took breaks every week to come down and resupply. So I don't know.
Great.
I could give you a man-hour total. There was only one camp trip, the one that I did at the end that was 6 days. Everything else we did in day trips. The last day trip we did was like 17 hours, in part because Georgia Schneider fell around 200 meters deep in the cave and sprained her ankle really, really badly and crawled out. So that one got extended the length a little bit of the trip, and we decided to start camping after that just for efficiency reasons because we were running out of time on the expedition. But yeah, I think we found this on like day 4 or 5 of the expedition total, and PESH is basically a month long. So
good work, Tommy. Looks nice.
Yeah, it really does. This is very cool to see.
Was that a borehole lead back there? That's the borehole lead, right? That was what we saw. Also, how much depth would this add to the system, if any?
None.
I don't think any. Yeah.
If this
Mirananta is higher.
If this connects the system, it'd be longer than Purificación.
Wow.
And it adds an entrance, right?
Two, I guess.
Yeah, at least one. And there are several leads in Elysium that are very likely to go almost immediately to other entrances. And in fact, the stream at the very lowest part of the cave, 400 meters deep, we found shotgun shells in there at that level. And there are wet leads going up, so there's a lot of stuff in here that will probably go to additional entrances. I theorize.
Oh, by the way, Mammoth Cave has 29 entrances, the same number.
Oh, same. Okay.
Yeah, it's Sistema Huautla.
All right.
She just said that it had more, so I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was being optimistic.
I mean, like now.
We'll surpass them.
Cool. Well, I guess, do you want to focus on any other point of the map? We should, applause, right?
Yeah.
We do that. Everybody on mute.
Thank you.
That map is awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, good work, guys, for sure. Ooh.
Thank you, guys.
How long,
Hope everybody's
I
not
guess
sick of hearing about Mexico. Thanks for
Hey,
having me.
Tommy,
Oh,
bring
yeah.
up the 3D and rotate it. Tommy's got a 3D map and he can rotate it too.
We lost the map.
So Tommy has the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't hear him and we can't see him. Oh, here we go. Give me a couple minutes. He's going to try. Because he's got Elysium on the 3D. And when he rotates it, you can really, really see it all in relationship.
So is the cave, are the faults in the cave on trend with the faults in Sistema Huautla? Or, I mean, I imagine the whole range is probably on trend.
I haven't heard from Fernando
Will,
about that.
do you
Or
know?
Jim Smith.
I have no
I
idea.
don't know.
Yeah,
This is
definitely.
just-
If you're ever surveying along and you see the fault, take a bearing on it because, yeah, it helps you really understand the geology in the area, particularly like faulted jointed. And like
Yeah,
where
I
your
mean,
cave's
it
going, if you're
aligns
talking about
directly
going
with
south and
that
stuff,
big
so.
room at the bottom,
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
pretty clear where it is. But I have no idea where any of them are in actual Sistema Huautla.
What's been occurring since Jim Smith did his field work for his master's degree 30 years ago, and now Fernando's doing his master's degree in Sistema Huautla, is that there are a lot more new roads with road cuts. And Smith's been mapping the dip and strike of all those road cuts for several years now.
Right.
And so we're going to have a better map of the underground strata. And Fernando added that to his thesis now, which I understand he's getting close to being finished with.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Sure kind of makes you want to do a thesis.
Smith start 40 years ago?
What about 40 years?
Isn't that when Jim Smith started working on his master's?
Not quite, but more than 30.
Oh, I
Here we
did
go.
have this one. Okay, well, the 3D is better anyways.
So he'll tilt it now.
Yeah, that's 3D file.
There we go.
Yeah. You want to see this?
Oh, I forgot your dad was there. Nice.
And when he rotates it, you'll see Elysium. There it is. There's Elysium on the left.
So which one's La Grieta?
Green. So that's Elysium over there. Tommy, can you put your cursor where the dye came out into the system? There at the dog leg and La Grieta there. Yeah, right in there.
So it's more horizontal.
Yeah. So you can see Nanta's a lot higher in elevation. So you're looking at about 95 kilometers of cave passage, because Sistema Huautla is 89, and then, as she said, 5 kilometers in Elysium.
And your goal is 100, right, for PESH?
Yeah, that was a goal we set arbitrarily a few years ago. I think we're going to get it now. It's looking pretty good.
Did you guys see Andy's message that if you
Yeah.
can send Andy Edwards the data, he would add it to his model too?
Yeah, I'll make sure Tommy saw it. He's got the data.
Cool.
Thanks,
What
Andy.
format the data in?
What's this?
You know what format the data is in? Is it Compass and Walls?
This is in Walls.
Okay.
That's so cool.
So did anybody do any ridge walking after you guys found this cave, or
Yeah, so we
was it
actually
like,
had
oh,
a
well, I'm
very
doing that?
hard time convincing everyone to come into this cave and survey it with us. Roland and Tristan and Georgia spent, I think, like 4 days, 3 or 4 days, like walking to other things, trying to find their own cave. They did not find anything that went very far. There's another cave nearby that is going, and we think that it's likely that it connects in to the camp water source, because there's a passage going upstream from camp that's kind of like seems to be heading in a similar direction. But we didn't spend a lot of time focusing on that one for various reasons. So, I mean, there are a ton of other caves in the area, small caves with lots of archaeology. On the same day we found this cave, we found a cave with some really, really spectacular archaeology artifacts and other pits and things, but nothing else that we've been looking at in Panda Escoba has gone very far. Now, there's a Mexican expedition that's been there since we were there and goes there more often, and they seem to have going caves in the area as well. But my understanding is that anything that drains towards Sistema Huautla, they're sort of leaving be. So I don't think there's too much overlap on that front.